everyone. I, Ishtiaq Ahmad Chodry, board member of Center for NRB, welcome you all to our today's session. Distinguished guests, I invite all the participants in the Dhaka venue and New York venue to kindly take their seats, and the participants via Zoom link to remain connected as we are about to begin the meeting shortly. Distinguished guests, for our Zoom participants, please write your name on your screen ID for us to acknowledge you correctly and remain on mute unless requested to speak. Distinguished guests, I now invite Mr. A.M.S. Shakil Chodry, the chairperson of Center for NRB, to preside over and moderate the session. Mr. Chairperson, I request you to please take over the session from our New York venue. Thank you. Thank you to all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ishtiaq Ahmed Choudhury, the board member of the Center for NRB, for initiating the meeting from the Dhaka venue. I now, on behalf of all the Center for NRB members and the organizers, welcoming you all in this August gathering from New York venue. Amongst us, may I request first of all to introduce Ms. Victoria Perry, the commanding officer here and NYPD, and they are supporting logistically us here in New York. Rest of the guests will be introduced later on, and we have one presenter of the pandemic, Dr. Masoodul Hassan from New York here, and in this page we have Mr. M.A. Rohim, the steering committee member of Center for NRB here in New York venue, Mr. Moinul H. Choudhury Helal is the president, Jalalabad Association, New York. He is here, and our two IT expert and the technical team member, Mr. Wasif Choudhury, the banker in New York, is here, and Mr. Tausif Raza Choudhury, the technical guy of the Center for NRB in New York, is here with us. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the closing session of the conference series Post-Pandemic World Economy, Necessity of Togetherness, under our annual program. We promote lawful living, lawful business. The center focus is promoting remittance and investment through banking channels and encouraging NRBs and others to invest in Bangladesh. The center believes NRBs and UN peacekeepers are key elements to building Bangladesh branding worldwide. It organizes seminars and roundtables at home and abroad to raise awareness. This year's program have been continuing for last 10 years. Our Honorable President and Honorable Prime Minister continue to encourage the center through their written words of support. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, today the global community faces unprecedented challenges due to COVID-19, the direst threat faced by the postmodern world. The pandemic harmful footprint has been felt across the globe, and our many societal structures, and especially on our education sectors and business sectors, such as airlines, tourism, RMG, cross-border trade, banking, insurance, hospitality, and remittance flow. In our view, these sectors, which are the bedrock of the global economy, have been hit hardest. The countless have lost their means of livelihood. In this time of crisis, the global neighborhood of nations must coordinate their response to assist these impacted industries under trusted leadership. We have been many great examples of individual and collective initiatives taken thus far, such as by the UK, where an army of volunteers came forth to support their neighbors, or in Bangladesh, where the army, navy, and other law enforcing agencies collectively endeavored to tackle the crisis by providing emergency medical services and food essentials to ensure proper quarantine. There is a need for focused leadership. However, in order to effect greater regional and global cooperation, which is the ultimate strategy to defeat the virus and counteract its harm on the world, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres echoed the same to the world leaders as he emphasized the need for unity and global cooperation. We, the Center for Non-Resident Bangladeshis, the research organization of Bangladesh, felt the necessity to welcome experts from various fields and industries to a policy dialogue during United Nations General Assembly 2020 to share their insights on the necessity of togetherness and accordingly organize the inaugural session of this conference on 30th September 2020 in Dhaka in person and worldwide through Zoom link. After 90 days since the inaugural session was held, today in the closing session in New York, we are hopeful that the discussions can help determine whether country-level responses can single-handedly address the global scale and complexity of the crisis, or a coordinated and innovative policy action is needed from the world's economies. The United Nations leadership will have a pivotal role to ensure such coordination through their central and in-country wings. Global solidarity is not only a moral imperative, but also the most effective strategy to effectuate a swift and comprehensive economic recovery. We have a diverse group of participants today, including honorable ministers from Bangladesh, policymakers from all over the world, and United Nations officials, who will kindly hear the discussion that can help them with strategy formation. Some of them have shared their insights in the inaugural session, and others will be sharing their valued comments today, all of which will be incorporated into our post-conference outcome document that will be published soon. Now, before moving into our presentations, I would like to briefly introduce before you our honorable guests who are in fact joining us in this closing session. And may I mention the name of the Honorable Foreign Minister, Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, Mr. Abul Hassan Chodry, former State Minister of Foreign Affairs, former Minister Sheikh Shahidul Islam, former Minister Major Abdul Mannan MP, former Minister Mr. G.M. Kadir MP, and the other members we have amongst us, Mr. Tajul Islam, the LGRD Minister, Honorable Health Minister Mr. Jahid Malik MP, Honorable Education Minister of Bangladesh, Dr. Deepu Moni MP, Honorable Minister Mr. M.A. Mannan, Ministry of Planning, and some more guests amongst us, the Honorable Director General of Special Security Forces to the Honorable Prime Minister Major General Majibur Rahman. We have amongst us the USAID Chief in Bangladesh, David Cowper, Dr. A.B.M. Abdullah, Honorable Physician to Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Tarek Alam from Bangladesh, who is research on COVID, and Mr. Dr. Masoodul Hassan from USA, who is promoting the medicine for the COVID-19 treatment, economist and former Governor of Bangladesh Bank, Dr. Atiur Rahman, economist Dr. Qazi Khalikuzzzaman Ahmed, economist and distinguished fellow of CPD, Dr. Mustafizur Rahman, economist Professor Dr. Naushad Amin from Tenaga National University, Malaysia. He is joining us from Malaysia. Professor Dr. Anwarul Hassan, economist from Qatar University, joining from Doha. Professor Dr. Imanul Haq, Goenka College, Kolkata, India. He is joining from India. And a paper will be presented by the business leader, former president of Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the president Bill, Mr. Abul Qasim Khan, and Also a business leader will join us, Mr. Manwar Hussain, the President of Steel Manufacturing Association, BGM Minister Leader Mr. Farooq Hassan, MCHAM President Mr. Ershad Hussain, Senior Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Mr. Abu Tahir Shuaib, British Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce former President and Chief Advisor Mr. Shahagir Bokht Farooq from UK, British Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce President Mr. Bashir Ahmad from UK, banker and Managing Director of Trust Bank Limited Mr. Farooq Mainuddin will make a presentation here. Honorable Attorney General and President of Supreme Court Bar Association Mr. Dr. Advocate A.M. Amin Uddin, former and immediate President of Supreme Court Bar Association Advocate Jainal Abedin, former Vice President of Dhaka University Student Union and former MP Mr. Akhtaruzzaman, Ambassador Nahida Sobhan from Jordan, Ambassador Mosharraf Hussain Bhuiya from Germany, Ambassador retired Humayun Kabir from Dhaka, and we will have the comments from the NYPD Commanding Officer Kev, Victoria Perry, and some more guests will join us. Mr. Farooq Khan MP, former Commerce and Civil Aviation Minister and presently the Chairman Standing Committee of Parliamentary Standing Committee is also joining us. Former Information Minister and Chairman Parliamentary Standing Committee Mr. Hassanullah Inu MP is also joining us here. And we'll go to the presentations. Before we start the presentation, may I invite the Steering Committee member of Center for NRB in USA, Mr. M.A. Rohim, to recite few verses from the Holy Quran, please. Mr. M.A. Rohim in New York venue.
Assalamu alaikum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي جعل في السماء بروجا وجعل فيها سراجا وقمرا منيرا هو الذي جعل الليل والنهار خلفة لمن أراد أن يذكر أو أراد شكورا وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما والذين يبيتون لربهم سجدا وقياما والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما إنها ساءت مستقرا ومقاما صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you, Mr. Rahim. Now I like to invite the banker from USA, non-resident Bangladeshi origin American, Mr. Wasif Chodry, to present before the House the message written given by Honorable President of Bangladesh, Mr. Abdul Hamid, who is a very good energy for us. Every year for last 10 years, Honorable President of Bangladesh giving us messages and supporting us this initiative of Center for NRB all over the world. Mr. Wasif Chodry, can you please make the presentation from New York venue, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I am delighted to learn that Center for NRB is hosting the World Conference Series 2020 throughout the year in different countries on the theme Branding Bangladesh, Beyond Bangladesh, NRB and UN Peacekeepers Leading the Way. Shimana Chhadiye Bangladesher Branding, Agrobhage Prabasi o Shantirukkhira. Non-resident Bangladeshis have been playing an important role in nation-building activities through sending their valuable remittance and participating in various socio-economic undertakings. A nation becomes prosperous when its people at home and abroad unite under their beloved flag and serve the country together. In our case, that especially includes expatriates who have always been integral to any great achievement of our nation. Bangladesh embarked on a prosperity and development journey and has attained sustainable growth over the years. In this trajectory of our economy, I believe global network of NRBs is the appropriate step to reach new heights for our country. The WCS 2020 will stir the NRBs to invest their time and talents to their motherland and lead the way to the future as they have done so alongside our UN peacekeepers in branding Bangladesh beyond Bangladesh. I thank the Center for NRB for continually arranging these programs over the past years, and I believe this will be a catalyst in helping us achieve the dreams of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, to transform Bangladesh into Shonar Bangla. I wish the World Conference Series 2020 all success. Khuda Hafiz, may Bangladesh live forever. MD Abdul Hamid.
Thank you, Asif Chodry, for presenting the Honorable President's speech, which has the message words has given for this World Conference Series 2020 for around the year we are doing here. We are grateful to the Honorable President of Bangladesh. Now I like to invite Mr. Moinul H. Chodry Helal, the President of Jalalabad Association in New York, for presenting before the House the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina MP's message given to the Center for NRB's conference series. Mr. Helal, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Thank you everyone for joining this meeting. I am happy to learn that the Center of Non-Resident Bangladeshi, NRB, is arranging year-long World Conference Series 2020 in different countries on the theme Branding Bangladesh Beyond Bangladesh, NRB and UN peacekeepers lending the way. The non-residents Bangladeshis have been playing a very important role in advancing our economy. The goal of Digital Bangladesh Vision 2021, SDG 2030, Vision 2041, Delta Plan 2100, and as a whole, the Golden Bangladesh cannot be accomplished unless all Bangladeshis, regardless of borders, work hand in hand. The spectacular of achievement of Bangladeshi citizens at home and abroad in various fields encourage us and act of reminder of our talent and ability as a nation. Time has come for Bangladesh to embolden its position in the modern world. I look forward to the countrymen to land this dream as NRB and UN peacekeepers have done in an exemplary fashion to brand Bangladesh positively abroad. The WCS 2020, I hope, will help advance this further. I appreciate the Center for NRB for highlighting the contribution of our diaspora in making our motherland prosperous. I believe through this initiative like WCS 2020, our people at home and abroad will be made aware of the bright future of our country. I wish the World Conference Series 2020 every success. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, may Bangladesh live forever. Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Helal, for presenting before the House and from the audience. The message is given by Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Honorable Sheikh Hasina MP. Friends, a lot of guests and the participants are joining from different country, and I am seeing the Ms. Mia Seppo, the United Nations chief in Bangladesh. She has joined by this time, and our Director General of Operation and Planning of Bangladesh Army Armed Forces Division, Brigadier General Manzoorul Haq, who joined us here to make quick remarks on UN peacekeeping, though the main presentation will be given by the Director General of Special Security Forces, Major General Majibur Rahman. Now, I like to invite Ms. Mia Seppo, the UN chief in Bangladesh, to make her remarks on this issue. Ms. Mia Seppo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. A very good evening to everyone.
Please.
Thank you. Let me start by thanking the Center for Non-Resident Bangladeshis for organizing this closing session as a follow-up on the side event that took place during the 75th UN General Assembly, the first ever virtual UN General Assembly. This side event covered a very ambitious range of global issues and brought together an impressive group of speakers and influencers from around the world, Bangladeshis and others. It will be very hard to do proper salutations of this forum because I see so many distinguished participants who are joining online. So let me just recognize a number of respected ministers of the government of Bangladesh, advisors to the government of Bangladesh, honorable members of parliament, public officials, representatives of development partners, academia, think tanks, civil society, private sector, and of course, non-resident Bangladeshis from around the world. A very good morning, a very good afternoon, and a good evening to all of you. This is a very exceptional year. This is the year when the United Nations is celebrating its 75th anniversary at a time of great disruption of the world, compounded by an unprecedented global health crisis with severe economic and social impacts. As you are well aware, the UN launched a global dialogue initiative to reflect on its 75th. With dialogues taking place from the classrooms to the boardrooms across the world, including here in Bangladesh. As the UN Secretary General said, in an interconnected world, we need a networked multilateralism, a UN family that truly reflects the increased diversity of the world. And this is, of course, what we are working towards. 2020 has been a remarkable year, and it's interesting that you are holding this discussion as we are just closing on 2020. More change in 1 year than in the World War. Much of what we know about development, about what we foresaw, as individuals and as nations has been upended. The pandemic has revealed and deepened patterns of inequality, income and wealth inequality. The digital divide has worsened inequalities in access to education. The exposure to air pollution has worsened the impact of COVID-19 for those who can't take appropriate measures. And the shadow pandemic of violence against women is known to all. The Secretary General called in September 2019 for a decade of action, and this call is more relevant than ever. It is time to focus on ending poverty, on rescuing the planet from the climate cliff, and on building a more peaceful world. I want to really recognize the role that that Bangladesh plays as a key partner for the United Nations and for UN reform. The Honorable Prime Minister has been a great supporter and called for and welcomed a new and invigorated UN development system, a system that is focused on acting in a more integrated manner, focused on delivery on the ground, focused on really responding to national needs, building on national capacities and skills, and closely aligning with country agendas for 2020. And I want to recognize that the Bangladesh permanent representative to the United Nations, one of the many talented female ambassadors that you have serving around the world, is the chair of the UNICEF board and also the vice president of the executive board of the UNDP, UNFPA, and UNOPS executive boards. And of course, as the UN, I want to recognize Bangladesh's consistent and solid contribution to UN peacekeeping. And also here, the Bangladesh commitment to the reform of peacekeeping, those frontline issues that's going to keep peacekeeping relevant in the changing world that we live in. The government of Bangladesh support to the Secretary General's call for zero tolerance on sexual exploitation and abuse. The government of Bangladesh support to the Security Council resolution on women, peace and security, and the Bangladesh support to the agenda for peacekeeping. I will cut my remarks short in terms of the impact that COVID-19 has had on global economies, because there's speakers lined up this evening who will be able to speak to these issues with greater depth of knowledge, and we have a range of speakers lined up. Let me just say that in addition to recognizing Bangladesh's commitment to supporting UN reform, I obviously want to recognize the enormous generosity of the government and the people of Bangladesh in hosting almost 1 million Rohingya who are hosted in Cox's Bazar. And to really recognize that the incredible patience and commitment this has taken as we get into the 4th year of this crisis, and the need for finding solutions in Myanmar, where all the root causes of this problem lies. I think it is important to use this opportunity to also look ahead, look to a future that will keep hope alive, look to a future that will take the lessons and the wisdom that we have gained through this exceptional year and turn those into opportunities. Bangladesh yesterday approved the 8th five-year plan, a plan that particularly addresses the different vulnerabilities that have been elevated because of COVID-19. As the UN system, we are in the process of developing the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, which is our response to the priorities that the government has articulated in the 8th five-year plan. It is expected that 2021 will be the year of recovery. Whether it will happen in 1 year or whether it will take a few more years, I think there is hope and confidence that this recovery will happen. For that to happen, we as the UN are strongly calling for the COVID vaccine to be a global public good, and we highly appreciate the Honorable Prime Minister's advocacy to this effect. The UN Health Agency and other agencies are working around the clock in collaboration with member states to make sure that there is a proper and fair distribution of vaccine. As you all know, no one is safe until everyone is safe. The socioeconomic recovery needs to be green and inclusive. And herein lies a lot of opportunities for clean technologies, opportunities for innovation, opportunities for further advancing digital Bangladesh in an inclusive manner. Bangladesh is a frontline country on climate change and also the current chair for the Climate Vulnerability Forum and the Vulnerable 20 group of ministers of finance of the 48 states that constitute the international body for climate-threatened nations. We, as the UN, welcome the continuous strong advocacy by the government of Bangladesh and the people of Bangladesh on climate issues. I think anyone who has the privilege to live and work in Bangladesh will recognize that in Bangladesh there are no climate deniers. And we certainly look forward to the continued leadership of Bangladesh in calling for delivery of the strengthened contributions to the Paris Agreement and working, of course, towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Let me close by recognizing the immense contribution of all of you as non-resident Bangladeshis. I'm looking forward to learning from these discussions about the economic diplomacy that you are all part of, an issue that is very high on the agenda of the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You are important in rebranding Bangladesh as a peace-loving, hospitable, and fast-growing nation that offers a range of opportunities. Having had the honor and the privilege to serve in Bangladesh for 3 years, I think I join the voices recognizing that the image of Bangladesh abroad tends to be a little bit outdated, and we all have a role to play in updating that image, and you certainly have a key role to play in that. COVID-19 has taken a lot from us, and in some cases, it threatens the hard-earned development gains. But now it is the opportunity to rethink development, to reimagine the importance of solidarity and collaboration and multilateralism. I believe that this discussion, with all the distinguished speakers participating and with the very broad range of issues that you will cover, will contribute to this thinking of what is a better world for everyone. Let me close by extending my warm wishes to each and every one of you for hope and peace and a healthy 2021. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for the opportunity to address this very august and distinguished gathering of thinkers and influencers from around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mia Seppo, for giving a very encouraging words about Bangladesh and your good speech. We hope the leadership for these all important areas, the UN headquarters and Bangladesh office will take necessary steps to support the countries like Bangladesh and neighboring to prevent this pandemic situation. Regarding the pandemic, we have some designated speakers who will speak each in 3 minutes. May I invite Dr. Masoodul Hassan from USA, who is in fact promoting the Medicare of this pandemic, and he is promoting very highly everywhere. So I like to invite him for giving a quick remarks for 2 minutes, because he has given a full comprehensive presentation in inaugural session. So now he will give an about 2 minutes presentation, please.
Honorable guests, honorable ministers, and honorable distinguished from all over the world. It gives me a great pleasure to speak on the topic of coronavirus and how it has evolved since the beginning of 2020. As a healthcare expert, it is great to see the progress the vaccine companies have made with regards to COVID-19. Today approved by the FDA for emergency use only. There are 2 types of vaccine out there. We have the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna one. The Pfizer vaccine has an effectiveness rate of 95% when taken as a second shot after 21 days since the first shot. The Moderna vaccine has an effectiveness rate 94.1% when taken as a second shot 28 days after the first shot. They are both remarkably similar in composition in that they use mRNA to spark an immune response in the body in reaction to the spike protein of COVID-19. Therefore, once the body produces the antibodies in reaction to the protein genetic code from the vaccine, it destroys the mRNA and the protein genetic code, leaving only the antibodies behind the future protection from coronavirus. This process is unlike traditional vaccines like the flu vaccine, which relies the virus being growth in chicken eggs. Common symptoms after taking the vaccines, as reported by Pfizer and Moderna, include headaches, dizziness, pain at the injection site, swelling, etc., with a relatively minor occurrence of such incidents happening in the most individuals. And although allergic reactions have been common in some taking the vaccines, overall, they are safe to protect the most vulnerable and provide us all with herd immunity in stopping the contagious spreading of coronavirus worldwide. Aside from the vaccine mentioned above, an extremely popular medicational treatment I have recommended since the pandemic has been the usage of ivermectin. This medication, when taken as directed within the first week of exposure to coronavirus, can effectively destroy the virus and stop its spread throughout the body immediately. Moreover, it has been around for many years, and many around the world have taken it to treat other conditions like malaria, intestinal diseases, etc. It does a safe and effective treatment, backed by research from Australia's Monash University, as a great treatment against coronavirus. In Bangladesh, it can be observed the government has effectively handled the spread of coronavirus and minimized its presence in such a populated country, from mandating wearing masks in public spaces with ensuring proper hospital access to the public. The government has done an excellent job in terms of handling this global crisis. Today, the rates remain low for the country compared to its population and neighbor, India, where coronavirus continues to grow. In conclusion, as a medical professional, I have observed many things and can say confidently that the battle against coronavirus is nearing end and soon. With the presence of vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna, along with the effective treatment from ivermectin globally, COVID-19 will be reduced to lower numbers and mass stability will be returned to the world. By the third quarter of 2021 to the fourth quarter of 2021, which everything else around will reach a level of normalcy in our lives and pandemics will near an inevitable end. The rapid emergence of vaccines will ensure guaranteed herd immunity in the most vulnerable population globally, and along with the ivermectin as a really available effective treatment, coronavirus will not threaten the sanity of our lives, whether in Bangladesh or America. We will beat this disease and stop it as its track from destroying so many lives as already has, and we will emerge as winners. Now our Honorable Prime Minister is not the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, not only he's the leader of the world. And I wish the success of this pandemic, what she's doing all over the world. She's the best and she should get the Nobel Prize for the next on the pandemic. Thank you very much to all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, Bangladesh Chirojeevi Ho.
Thank you, Dr. Masudul Hassan. Now I'd like to invite the Honorable Foreign Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. He has given a very comprehensive, thoughtful discussion in our inaugural session. Still, we invited, very cordially invited him to just give some thoughts in our closing session. And by this time, he has a family inconvenience, just confirmed me a couple of minutes back. So I like to request the Honorable Foreign Minister, Mr. Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, to give his quick remarks here, please. Honorable Foreign Minister, are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Please, sir.
You can listen to me? Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shakil Chodry. Honorable ministers, my colleagues, honorable members of parliament, distinguished participants and friends from academia, distinguished diplomats, the leaders, diaspora leaders, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. I thank the Center for NRB for organizing today's event, as the topic amply captured both the current calamity and the required future course of action. Before I proceed, I pay my deepest respect to the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and the 3 million martyrs in this month of victory, in this year of Mujib Bosha. And I wish you all Happy New Year 2021. I also pay my profound gratitude for all the frontline workers all over the world who are risking their lives to keep this deadly menace at bay for all of us. COVID-19 has now threatened the very base of globalization and connectivity that all of us have built all through the years. This is no longer a simple health crisis. It has become full-fledged global economic and social crisis, and its adverse impacts would be borne by our prosperity for years to come. And like many other crises, the LDCs and most vulnerable developing countries and less fortunate people generally will face the main burden, though they have no role in producing this catastrophe. We are afraid more than 500 million additional people could be pushed into poverty unless urgent action is taken to bail out poor countries affected by the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, as this is the global calamity, it needs global solution. So it is imperative to have solidarity and political will to survive through the worst crisis in recent history. The problems of the world today are cross-border, cross-sector, cross-generation, cross-continent, and extremely interlinked. Today, our world is more networked and interconnected than any time in the past. Therefore, solving problems requires more cooperation than ever to reach the right, collective, fair, comprehensive, and sustainable solutions which are most beneficial for the people and the planet. Global and regional collaboration is needed effectively as a long-term sustainable development strategy to manage the current effects and aftershocks of this pandemic in the global economy. Ladies and gentlemen, this crisis has already threatened the timely achievement of the SDGs. While we are trying to effectively deal with this crisis, we must not forget the fact that man-made or natural disasters such as COVID-19 further aggravate the vulnerabilities of the climate vulnerable countries. So all our actions and strategies must be climate sustainable. You are aware that Bangladesh has taken over the presidency of the fourth country climate vulnerable forum.
No problem. I can take it.
Forum,
thank you.
So that we can effectively lead the global
lockdown
adaptation and mitigation process by sharing our resilience, good practices, and commitment. The pandemic has posited unprecedented challenges to businesses, including airlines, tourism, manufacturing, hospitality industries, and export earnings. It's caused many workers in both formal and informal sectors to lose their means of livelihood. The private sector and the UN organization have a greater role to play in overcoming the crisis by supplementing government initiatives. To effectively fight the COVID-19, strong measures have already been undertaken by the government of Bangladesh under the direct supervision of the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. We have already declared a $14.4 billion rescue package, which is 4.3% of GDP, percentage-wise highest in South Asia. Even in this grave global economic situation, our GDP growth had been 5.24%, one of the highest in the world. Bloomberg has also ranked Bangladesh in the top 20 countries to effectively fight COVID-19 and most successful in South Asia. All these substantiate the topmost leadership quality of the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Is also displayed at the management of the Rohingya crisis under her leadership. However, this crisis has given us a great opportunity to build back better by rectifying the faults of existing global order. So I would like to remember the advices of the Honorable Prime Minister to effectively deal with this crisis and beyond. Let me say, one, combating this pandemic requires a transparent, vigorous, well-coordinated and worldwide response with the participation of all countries, international organizations, civil society organizations, and private sector. UN and international organizations will be at the center of all recovery measures to be supported by G7, G20, OECD, and the international financial institutions. Long-term access to credit for the vulnerable countries should be assured at a low or zero cost. A part of the debt burden of the developing countries and the LDC should be reduced, if possible, as goodwill gesture by the sovereign and institutional creditors. Private creditors may also be encouraged to follow suit. Idle private capital may be given incentives for investment in the developing country. 3, for migrant workers, we need to save their jobs during this crisis, and their dues must be paid fully in case of loss of jobs. 4, it is no time to practice economic or trade protectionism. LDCs should be given their previously committed market access. 5, many developing countries, including Bangladesh, are capable of producing top quality medicine and medical products. They are very good source of innovation and ICT sector. With the transfer of technology and patents, these countries may help to overcome the crisis in a big way if their potentials are rightly assisted and utilized. Ladies and gentlemen, so far with the UN, we have managed to prevent the Third World War for almost 75 years and made significant progress in many social indicators. The UN Secretary General and the UN in general have been instrumental in all multilateral efforts to overcome global problems. I want to remind everyone that the necessity to abide by the international law and the UN Charter ensures justice and improves human rights, enhances political cooperation, and successfully makes all our efforts fit for purpose. For our own benefit, we need to make the UN development system useful by increasing its significance, its coherence, its efficiency, its proficiency, and its leadership on global issues. The pandemic has given us an opportunity to do it by building back better, and we will achieve it leaving nobody behind. I thank all of you and wish you best of luck. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Foreign Minister. You are always very supportive to us, and particularly for the non-resident Bangladeshis issues. And you are very nicely presenting Bangladesh situation all over the world. And in your past days also, you have put
I
your
would
prudent
like to
leadership.
listen to many of these luminaries, but I have something else to do. So if you excuse, I will, I would love to leave after a few minutes. Is
Yes,
okay?
I know, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much. Thank you
And
very much for joining us.
I have some death in the family, so those everything cumulative. We have a dua in few minutes time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate. Hope to see you in Dhaka soon. Now I like to invite to make a presentation on UN peacekeeping. The Major General Muhammad Mujibur Rahman, the Director General of Special Security Forces of Honorable Prime Minister's Office in Bangladesh. Major General Mujibur Rahman, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shakil Ahmed. Am I audible?
It's okay. Fine. Thank you.
First of all good wishes to Mr. Shakil and all members of Center for Non-Residents Bangladesh. It's always a pleasure to be with you where you discuss the most burning issues in the world. You nicely interface the role of UN peacekeepings, challenges of the pandemic that the world is experiencing now, and try to find out plausible solutions so that people across the globe can easily adopt various ways and means. Those are brought out through a lot of discussions with amongst the experts in this field. Actually, during the initial session, I gave a deliberate presentation onto the UN peacekeeping and role of Bangladeshi peacekeepers. Besides the peacekeeping operations, how they are contributing in controlling, in mitigating, and dealing with the COVID situations across the globe where the peacekeepers are being deployed. Today, So I will remain very crisp and highlight on the issues. Those are very current in nature. Those are having two folds. Number one is to address the present COVID situation, and at the same time, preparation for the government, especially highlighting on the Bangladesh government, the preparation of the government, how to address the long-term effect of this pandemic, which has been placed by the COVID situation in Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, you all must be knowing our Honorable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. Since the beginning of the COVID situation, she herself has been closely engaged with the people, with the policymakers, and contributing directly into fighting these situations. It's not only limited to the Bangladesh only. She is very often connected to the global leaders and contributing hugely in making policies and decisions to fight the situation. If I go specific to the Bangladesh issues, as of now, she has declared a very heavy stimulus package, approximately $1 billion US, which is 2.52% of the GDP to fight with the COVID situation. Our social safety network has been widened enough to address the poor people so that people's sufferings are taken care of adequately. Now, let us look towards the contributions of Bangladesh into dealing with the COVID situations globally. To respond to these challenges, the Secretary General of the United Nations has launched, as we all know, Action for Peacekeeping, in short, which is known as A4P, to renew the mutual political commitment to the peacekeeping operations by focusing on a set of 8 key priorities. These priority areas, in short, these are politics, women, peace and security, protections, safety and security, performance and accountability, peace building and sustainable peace, partnership, conduct of peacekeepers and peacekeeping operations. These are the basic 8 points where the Secretary General emphasis and focus on. Bangladesh was closely engaged with the negotiations to develop the Sustainable Development Goal at the United Nations. Our Excellency has unveiled the unique path where it stressed need to adopting inclusive policies can transform economic growth into sustainable development and social benefits. The biggest opportunity for the positive change in the post-pandemic world is for our global food system to become more local, sustainable, and equitable. While so much of UN's collective attention and investor capital has been focused on providing consumer convenience, the pandemic has irreversibly shifted the conversation to building community resilience through peacekeepers. Emphasis for beholding industrial growth, governments are now need to work with stakeholders across the entire agricultural supply chain to promote and invest in innovation related to the indoor farming, cultivation, augmented by UN's direct supervision for precision in agriculture, food safety, and precision. Okay. Honorable Prime Minister said, and I quote, now 6 million poor families are organized through more than 100,000 village and cooperative societies under the project My House, My Farm throughout the country in order to utilize each inches of land in cultivating. These are the actually positive steps towards dealing with the challenges and threats that the COVID situation is posing throughout the globe. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown how weak primary health care is across the globe, but especially in developing nations where there is already huge burden of infectious diseases. In this regard, Our Excellency sees a big opportunity for global collaboration between all stakeholders in strengthening primary healthcare delivery in low-resource settings, accelerated by the use of the technology for telemedicines, remote diagnostics, life support equipments, as well as augmented reality and virtual reality-based training for frontline health workers. Here I would like to say the remote diagnostics and remote medical support I have few of my relatives who lives in Los Angeles in the United States of America. And Dr. Masood Hassan, present here, staying in New York, he provided good medical support to those relatives who are suffering from corona in Los Angeles. That is the people-to-people connect. And the NRBs are providing support to each other. I really appreciate Mr. Masood Hassan's effort to fight in these pandemic situations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. COVID-19 pandemic is worsening the pre-existing vulnerabilities of the climate vulnerable countries, which has already been mentioned by our residence coordinator, UNDP, Mia Sapo. In Bangladesh, we are dealing with the dual impact of recent floods and cyclone Amphan, even during the pandemic. Renewed enthusiasm for the neutral world can be a powerful catalyst, and the UN may continue to nourish this through thoughtful educational initiative, policy making, and investment. It's time not only to get back to nature, but more deeply understand and respect the benefits for human resources. As the current president of the Climate Vulnerability Forum and the V20 group of ministers of finance, Bangladesh would lead the forum to map out a sustainable and climate resilient pathway out of the crisis. The digitalizations and fourth industrial revolutions hold the promise of changing our world for the better, and post pandemic, UN is in unique position to drive digitization. This renewed effort needs to be driven by a broad range of innovators, including startups and entrepreneurs, as this will bring diversity and creativity to technological innovation. Thus, UN can fully leverage the opportunity of digitizations and technology post-pandemic in conflict-affected countries. In short, actually, I wanted to highlight these points where it is a very close interface between the directives, that is A4P, and the directives given by our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Thank you, Mr. Sheikh Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Director General of Special Security Forces. I know you are very busy with many things in Bangladesh, but still you have given time for this noble cause of the country and promoting Bangladesh worldwide. I now like to invite Brigadier General A.N.M. Manzurul Haq, the Director General of Operation and Planning, Armed Forces Division, Bangladesh, Dhaka. Are you there, sir? Can you give some remarks on this presentation?
Yes, sir.
Made by DG, please.
I am here.
Please carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Center for distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening from Bangladesh time. At the very beginning, I express my gratitude to the Center for Non-Resident Bangladesh for allowing me to speak in this session. As Director General Operation and Planning Directorate of Bangladesh Armed Forces Division, I consider this to be a great privilege for me to speak on ensuring safety of our peacekeepers and making best utilization of them in this challenging situation. Bangladesh has always been responding ardently to the UN call for strengthening world peace and stability by contributing her troops for the noble cause of peacekeeping, and today Bangladesh is the highest troops contributing country.
Thank you.
Today our peacekeepers, more than 6,000, they are deployed in 8 countries in the troubled areas of the globe. I will be very precise to the topic as you have given to me. This is regarding the ensuring safety and how the peacekeepers are pulling them in this COVID situation. So, like all others, Bangladesh peacekeepers also could not escape from COVID-19. However, the rate of infected peacekeepers in different missions is very, very negligible. This is all because we have taken adequate protective measures right from the beginning. Immediately after the outbreak of COVID-19, Bangladesh government took effective measures to equip our peacekeepers with all sorts of protective gears like masks, personal protective equipments, sanitizers, goggles, etc. These are all sent from Bangladesh to ensure the safety of our peacekeepers. We also established COVID treatment and testing facilities and quarantine facility for the suspected contingent members in the mission areas. Immediately, our medical directorate from Dhaka circulated the treatment protocol and all necessary medication to the mission areas. At the same time, we also introduced training that includes the pre-deployment training or also training in the mission area, that what all are the protective measures or how to handle the COVIDs and how to operate them, keeping this COVID situation. And also, we made a network of doctors, those who are in the mission areas, and also that their network was connected with the chief physicians or the chief medical officers in the Dhaka CMH, where they have continuously shared their experiences, the latest medication and the treatment procedures, so that in the remote corner of the mission area, our peacekeepers know what is happening and how the treatment is going on and changing day by day. You would be also happy to learn that the peacekeepers, despite all these the COVID issues, they have continuously performed their tasks as assigned from the United Nations. Right, they are doing their mandated tasks like the mediation between the factions and the forces to ensure the ceasefire when it is required, suppressing the armed groups using force, escorting UN logistics, ensuring safe and secure environment for the civilian pillars in the United Nations mission area, reduce violence and continue to set conditions for stability, domination of vulnerable hotspots, support peace sensitization campaign, and of course, lot of humanitarian activities our peacekeepers are doing in the mission areas. So they are conducting every assigned task despite the COVID issue, and they are doing it successfully and doing very good in the mission area. And you'd be also happy to learn that in this COVID situation, Bangladesh Armed Forces has successfully deployed 2 more new contingents in the Central Africa. At the same time, we have also rotated around 4,000 troops from 12 different contingents, including a Navy ship, and they have completed their duties. So while doing all these things, we have followed absolutely the COVID protocol, the quarantine issues, and by the grace of Almighty, we have successfully done whatever has been given to us. And you know that in this COVID situation, since many of the airlines suspended their operations, our government took initiative to bring back the peacekeepers for leave and other recreational purposes, and our Air Force took a lead by sending their C-130 aircrafts to bringing them. So what I want to highlight is that despite COVID issues, the Bangladesh Armed Forces have put their best, and our peacekeepers, they are doing all assigned tasks despite the challenges of the COVID-19 issues. So at the end, I would like to thank you all. And I must say that let Bangladesh be the vanguard in the area of the peacekeeping operations, and let us uphold the commitment of our father of the nation for world peace that he declared in 24th UN General Assembly in 1974, our constitutional obligation, and of course, commitment of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Honorable Director General, for nicely presenting your case in front of the United Nations people. And we believe Ms. Mia Seppo is here and she is listening. And as the Bangladesh now is leading the #1 position in the UN peacekeeping, and we also expect the Bangladesh role in the policy making should be increased and take the more support of the Bangladeshi talents in the United Nations headquarters, particularly for the peacekeeping. Thank you very much. We have amongst us a doctor from the United Kingdom. She is looking after the child and mother health of the United Kingdom, and in this pandemic situation, giving the advices to the people. May I invite Dr. Zakir Rizwana from UK to make a remarks on these issues for 2 minutes on health issues of mother and child, please. Dr. Zakir Rizwana.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Just to save time, I will make six recommendations for the post-COVID Bangladesh healthcare system. And because I have seen that during pandemic, it has been proved that the healthcare system is the core part of our economic infrastructure. So lives and livelihood, the lives versus livelihood, this is a false dichotomy, and I think we need to focus on both and simultaneously. So number one is we need to focus on public health more, but particularly on one issue I would like to mention. One is we need to separate the medical care and the health of the nations. So all these decades, not only Bangladesh, but globally, we were focusing mostly on the more exotic and more intellectually interesting medical cares, forgetting the normal things. Like if you remember that most of the people who died had some underlying conditions. These are like diabetes, hypertension, obesity. All this could have been prevented at the community level. So these are the things Bangladesh should focus on, and it has to be a multi-disciplinary approach. The media should come forward, and if necessary, government can introduce tax on the sugar tax, like many other countries have done, those who are producing junk food and fizzy things. The second one is I would like to talk about the health workers. So we know that WHO, World Health Organization, has said that if nothing has been done, by 2030, the world will face 18 million shortage of health workers. So the health workers that we have in Bangladesh, we need to protect them. So this is not only the COVID time, it's on about after the COVID time. For example, when because of the occupational hazards they are facing, for example, treating the tuberculosis patient and the drug-resistant bacterial things. Third, I would go to the primary health care system. We need to strengthen that. And what we need to do is so people should come to the primary community levels, so that the burden on the secondary and tertiary hospitals will be lessened. And also there are the traditional health workers around all over the Bangladesh. We need to train them and incorporate them. And one thing, again, UNICEF, there's a report published recently, they said that even the gap in immunization gap within 2-3 months can cause the outbreak of infectious disease. And we know that within this COVID-19 pandemic, there was an outbreak of Ebola in Congo. So we should have at least like 90 days of immunization stock in the very primary care centers. Next is what I will say, that I would like to focus on elderly generations. Because of the economic development, the life expectancy has gone up in Bangladesh. So we have now think about this elderly generation. We should have appropriate policy. If we don't have it now, then within 10 years, 20 years, this will put a huge burden on the health system. So we need to think about that, which we didn't have to think 20, 30 years ago. Number 4, I would say the next one I would say about the technology. Because the pandemic, this COVID-19 is not the last pandemic. We will have more pandemic. Is natural. So what I would say that if we use the telemedicine, it can reduce the waiting time for the patients, and it can minimize the infection rate. And so what we need to do is the people who are not very comfortable with it, the government should take the initiative to train the people, the patients, so that they can be connected with the health professional. And the last thing I would say that it's not only in Bangladesh, all over the world, in health service, there are 2 parts of health service. One is public good, another one is the business model. It's not fair, but it's what it is. So what the government should do, they should talk the private sectors, that in case of national emergency, in case of pandemic, they should share their resources with the government sector. So what I think is, if we work together, we can be safer, we can be healthier, and we can prospect even more. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zaki Rizwana Anwar, for your deep thoughtful presentation, and hope you already sent us the whole paper of yours, which will be published in our publication and outcome document. Before I invite the next speaker, I like to mention the journalist community all over the world has participated. By this time is about 35, and I like to mention a couple of names who has already confirmed me that they are joined already and in the line. They from UK, Mr. Ansar Ahmadullah, from UK, Mr. Mahbub Rahman, UK, Mr. Abbasu Zaman, Canada, Mahbub Chodry Roni, Canada, Bappi Rahman, France, M.A. Hashim, Kolkata, from Kolkata, the President, Kolkata Press Club, Mr. Sneha Shishur, from Egypt, member of Cairo Press Club, Ujjal Hassan Khan, from Egypt, Cairo, Mr. Mohsin Al-Arishi, and from Istanbul, Mr. Ahmed Kasukaidin, and from Turkey, World Television, Shamim Chodry, Ankara, Sarwar Alam Anadolu Agency, Ankara, Turkey, and Daily Soba, editor, sub-editor from Ankara, Ms. Dilara Aslan, from Italy, Mr. Moni Ruz Zaman, Kuwait, Mr. Sadek Ripon, and from Malaysia, the assistant editor of Star, Mr. Ilan Peramul, from Malaysia, Mr. Ahmedul Kabir, Mr. Ashraful Mamin, from Qatar, Gulf Times, Noor Mohammed. If we get the more names, I will try to recognize all of you that you are joining and listening the words from us. Can I invite one of gentlemen who is working in Bangladesh in an international organization, and he is serving the USAID. May I invite David Kaup? David, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Please,
here.
you can give a quick remarks on 2 minutes on the issue as you have mentioned in the first session. Please, David.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting the U.S. Embassy to return and speak at the closing session of this important conference. I'm honored to be among these illustrious speakers. Since the opening session many months ago, countless lives have been lost or devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Many deaths have been tallied by virtually every nation on the planet. Untold more were missed by official record keeping. In addition, many millions have suffered sickness, loss of loved ones, or lost income. Around the world, people and governments have rallied to respond. The United States Agency for International Development, known as USAID, and other agencies of the United States government have provided assistance to many nations in the world, including Bangladesh. USAID has contributed nearly $37 million in development and humanitarian assistance to address Bangladesh's COVID-19 readiness and response efforts. This assistance will strengthen diagnostic and laboratory capacity, increase case management and infection prevention and control practices, improve supply chain and logistic management systems, and enhance risk communication messages to increase public knowledge and dispel myths and misconceptions. This funding builds upon more than $1 billion in health assistance to Bangladesh over the past 20 years and underscores the long-term U.S. commitment to ensuring access to quality, life-saving health services for all Bangladeshi. The United States has the largest economy in the world, an economy based on free markets and capitalism. Why would such a country offer assistance? Why wouldn't it only offer trade? The short answer is that we're all interdependent, and therefore helping others is a way of helping ourselves, much the way family members look out for each other. When a family lives under the same roof, it is clear that they benefit from each other's success. It is easier to prepare one meal shared by all than for each to prepare their own meal without sharing. It is easier to share the work of cleaning and maintaining one house than several houses. When the roof leaks, for example, only one person should have to climb up to fix it for everyone below. This is the role of government, to provide public goods, whether they be roads, security, sanitation, or protection from other threats, just as the roof protects the family from rain. We all have an interest in protecting each other from the spread of a virus. Right now, our health is a public good. But there is also a role for the private sector and competition. Competition is a mechanism to allocate resources in a more efficient manner so that we are all better off. Free trade is a way to make sure that the world's bananas, for example, are grown in the tropics, regardless of where they are consumed, to make sure that the apples are grown in temperate climates and cranberries in even colder zones. This is an efficient use of our land. Market competition is a mechanism to bring out the best in us. It is a way to generate better products every year. When Apple and Samsung compete for market share of mobile phones, consumers get better reception, better battery life, and better photographs. When firms compete in other sectors, people get better food, transportation, entertainment, and houses, including the roofs. At home, our cooks become chefs and our roofers relax or work on something else instead of climbing to the top of the house. The purpose of competition is to make society better, not for anyone to win. Society would not have benefited nearly as much if Motorola could have prevented competition from Nokia, Samsung, LG, Apple, or anyone else. It can be tempting to think that residents of one country don't want residents of another country to win. In fact, we all want each other to win. Even though Samsung phones are made in South Korea, Americans are better off with a mobile phone from 2020 than the original Motorola from 1973. And those employees of Motorola have continued to contribute, just in other ways. Motorola's sales of consumer electronics have since increased, while some former employees have gone on to start up new firms. This competition is not zero-sum. So market competition is healthy for society when it results in better technologies and the more efficient use of our resources. The purpose of competition is for society to benefit and not for the firms who are competing. Likewise, within those firms, there are employees competing for promotions. That competition is for the benefit of the firms, not merely for the individual employees. An employee who doesn't understand this would be considered toxic. And within those families, competition too can be healthy. Sibling rivalry is healthy when it results in harder working, more ambitious children. Yet the families should still love each other. The parents could not imagine it any other way. So we all live under one sky. We help each other when we are in need. We care for each other. We compete with each other when it makes us better, yet we root for each other's success. Anything else would be short-sighted. Anything else would be foolish. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Can we move on? Connection error. Okay, David, we're moving on.
Yes, I'm done. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Now I'd like to invite the Honorable Education Minister of Bangladesh. As you know, the sector is seriously damaged because of the next generation is sitting idle in home. It's a real problem of the mental disorders is rising everywhere. In developed countries, in the less developed countries. That's why we have invited our Honorable Education Minister, how she is thinking to fight this situation with our students. Honorable Education Minister, Ms. Deepu Moni, please. Dr. Deepu Moni, please. Dr. Deepu Moni, are you there, please?
Yes.
Please, please carry on.
Respected Chair, dear colleagues, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the government of Bangladesh, I extend my best wishes to all of you connected virtually in different regions of the world. This year, we are celebrating the birth centennial of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and we are preparing to celebrate 50 years of our independence next year. In this month of victory, I wish all of you a healthier and happier 2021. I'm very pleased to join this conference organized by the Center for the NRBs. Indeed, we are living through an extraordinary time. COVID-19 pandemic has brought forth unprecedented economic and health crises globally, and it has wrought profound disruption in education systems across the world. Most worryingly, it threatens our present and future generations. Education is the development multiplier, a powerful tool to accelerate progress across all SDGs. As governments prioritize addressing health and economic challenges, education is at a risk of being left behind. If not addressed, it would leave a catastrophic impact on our present and future generations. Bangladesh is known for our resilience and innovation. Under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, immediately after the closure of schools and educational institutions in March 2020, we adopted several measures to ensure learning continuity for our students, which included COVID-19 response plan for education sector, which provides a framework of strategies and interventions for the school education system. Introduction of distance learning for primary and secondary level through a dedicated television channel from 29th of March. Using social media networks such as Facebook and YouTube to conduct live classes, adopting alternative evaluation process for the higher secondary students in lieu of scheduled public exams, effecting auto-promotion and extending academic year in some cases, easing age limit for enrolling in TVET, Technical and Vocational Education and Training, setting up a new, we're trying to set up a new television channel, Education TV, dedicated to education and educational issues during COVID-19 and beyond. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the face of this generational crisis, strong political commitment is an absolute imperative, not only to minimize the negative impact of pandemic, but to ensure attainment of SDG 4. I would like to stress upon a few issues. Bangladesh is fully committed to maintain the share of public expenditure on education. And you have already heard from our foreign minister and from some of the discussions also already how Bangladesh government under the leadership of our prime minister, how we have organized all these packages to cope with this situation. Collaboration and support of the international community is crucial for the appropriate response to and recovery from the crisis. We are concerned at the following official development assistance. We must strengthen collaboration across countries and regions, build effective partnership among all stakeholders, and renew our commitment to education. We strongly support building robust and effective partnership with private sector, as well as efficient use of finances, better governance, and prevention of leakages of resources. Digital divide has already widened the gap between urban and rural students during pandemic. Bridging this digital divide across regions will require prioritizing coordinated and scaled up efforts. Policies, plans, and measures to address learning gap must be equity focused, gender responsive, and inclusive. Strong advocacy and monitoring is very much required. Teachers are at the core of education and learning. Maintaining, protecting, and ensuring their well-being are crucial. Increased and adequate investment should be devoted to upgrade their professional capabilities, including digital and pedagogical skills. In reopening schools safely and building back better, local context and its diversity needs to be considered carefully. Establishing a closer collaboration with the community and engaging in social dialogue with teachers, parents, and community leaders would be critical. Even before the pandemic, in Bangladesh, we have been working on our education system, revamping the whole thing. And because you see, we have our all these goals to achieve, the SDGs 2030, Vision 2041 of a developed Bangladesh. We have to achieve our demographic dividend, and there is only a very narrow window of opportunity left to achieve that. And we have to face the challenges of fourth industrial revolution. In order to achieve all these things, our main tool would be education. We have a huge population in a very small country. We need to transform them into skilled human resources. So we have been emphasizing on skills training from schools and an orientation from very early childhood. what the vision of our father of the nation of a golden Bengal and the vision of his daughter, Sheikh Hasina, of a developed country by 2041, and our national aspirations, which are embodied in our constitution and in all our political documents, in our manifestos. In order to achieve all those things, we have to better our education and its delivery system. And it's not just delivery, but the content as well. So we have to create pathways for easy transferability amongst different streams. We have different streams of education. We have introduced flexibility with age. The training has to be quality training. In TVET, the mutual recognition of certificates with other countries and regions where our people go to work usually, that is necessary. Recognition of prior learning. We have been working on all these things. And in order to achieve success in this area, change of mindset is an absolute necessity. And we need to connect the dreams of our youth with the strategy for our skills development and our national aspiration of achieving a developed country. We need to collaborate with others who have already done well. We need to set up world-class institutions for technical and skills training. Our curricula must match global emerging needs. Our teachers' recruitment must match all these processes. There has to be a skills mapping, strategy formulation, its implementation, and proper monitoring. We have been working on quality education. In our 2018 manifesto, we emphasized on ensuring quality education at every level. And there have been a few out-of-the-box initiatives recently. We are adopting quality education elements, integrating our liberation war values with everything that the students learn. We're trying to develop soft skills, social skills, emotional skills of our students, like creativity, communication skills, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, social commitment, employability, cooperation, collaboration, empathy, all these things, then focusing on the formative assessment rather than on summative assessment. We are focusing on project-based experiential learning. We're digitizing teaching learning process, involving our students in community service. And we are also trying to take care of our students' physical and mental health. And building for our higher education sector, building a culture of research, emphasizing on innovation. And after this pandemic, there has to be blended education. And because even when we go back to classrooms, we have to continue, I think, with the online education side by side. That would provide opportunity to many of our prospective students who probably have already are working and they need to reskill or upskill themselves and cannot afford to come back to campuses. So this blended education will provide them opportunities to reskill or upskill themselves. Modular education has to be there, and the education has to be inclusive. And I think a very important aspect is learning to learn, because now we are talking about lifelong learning. So if our learners know how to learn, then it becomes easier for them for their lifelong learning. So for all these aspirations, we need investments, which the government is trying its best to provide. But we also need training at every level. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has once again reminded us that we have one world. Our lives are interconnected and our destinies intertwined. To overcome the present crisis and reinforce the foundation for a sustainable future, we need global solidarity and multilateral cooperation more than ever before. Now is the time to translate the political commitment demonstrated today into effective and meaningful actions. Leaving education behind would be catastrophic for our present and future generations, and that cannot be an option. I have tried to be very brief. There are many other things in education that is happening in Bangladesh and will continue to happen in the coming days. But I have to leave, so I will not talk about our education anymore. I'll just end now. Happy New Year. Let us hope that 2021 is a better year than 2020 for everyone. And let us embrace 2021 with an open heart, but definitely with masks on until we're all vaccinated. And go forward with faith, hope, and courage. Thank you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu. Thank you, Center for the NRBs.
Thank you very much, Honorable Education Minister, for your speech. I'd like to invite the gentleman. He's a very sober and very dear to everyone in Bangladesh, is seriously working on COVID-19 on behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister. He is the personal physician to the Honorable Prime Minister and a national award winner physician in Bangladesh, Dr. Abul. May I invite Dr. Abdullah to make a quick remarks? Just he recovered from the COVID-19. He is a frontliner and fighting and just recovered from the COVID. Dr. Abdullah, are you there? Perhaps he is out of the screen now. Okay, we'll take him later on. And the other people we have already listened the health, education, COVID, even peacekeeping. Let's listen some words from the overseas diplomat, Ms. Nahida Subhan. She is the ambassador in Jordan. Can you give a quick remarks on this, your activities in the Jordan? Nahida Subhan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, if you can hear me.
Yes,
can you
please.
Hear me?
Thank you very much for joining us, and I will appreciate if you put it within 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. A very good evening to all of you from Amman. And I would like to go through the protocol first. The honorable ministers, honorable members of parliament, distinguished participants and other panelists, and all the distinguished members of the NRB. I would like to thank you very much first for inviting me to be a speaker in your wonderful program, and quite a bit heavy program, I would say. You have included all the important aspects and all the important issues that are needed to be addressed. So thank you very much for including me here. And I usually, what I say, that non-resident Bangladeshis and Bangladeshis who are working and living abroad are the brand master of Bangladesh. So I'm very glad to be associated with you, being part of the brand master with you as well. Now, 2 minutes is a very difficult times, but I would just like to go through some very short cryptic points with regard to the migrant workers around the world first, and then maybe a little bit on Jordan. I think you all know, and we all understand, which we have seen before as well during the financial crisis, which we have seen before in 2009 and 10 globally, And also this time, this is more of a health crisis globally, which has also impact and making it a bit of economic crisis as well. But in any kind of global crisis, what we see always is that the group that becomes the most vulnerable and the group that is hard hit during any global crisis are the migrants. And this time also, it is not a very different scenario. We see around the world when the economy shrinks or when there is a health crisis, we see migrants to suffer first, cutting jobs, in terms of cutting jobs. And this time also with the health crisis, there was another dimension that was added, and that is the stigma that the migrants faced globally. Now coming back to Jordan, but apart from Jordan, around the world, as per the last report that we have of 2019, end of 2019, we had about 7.5 million Bangladeshis approximately around the world. In Jordan, I would say that we have also seen the economy shrinking due to the COVID pandemic. But I would say that I felt lucky to be in a rather safe place because the Jordanian management of the COVID pandemic was quite good at the very beginning. But there were downfall in the economic sector a little bit, though the government has been trying to balance between the two. Now, with regard to the migrant workers in Jordan, I would say that from our embassy, with the instruction of the government, we tried our best to serve the migrants as much as possible. We went at the very beginning, we went for servicing them through, providing relief materials, food items for the destitute migrants in Jordan. We tried, in cooperation with the Jordanian government, tried to give them health facilities and health safety and security for the Bangladeshi migrant workers as much as possible. And I would say that we did receive a good cooperation from the Jordanian government because their addressing the health issues did not differ between there was no discrimination between the migrant workers and the nationals. So that was a good thing here. And we also engaged with the employers and with the also labor ministry here to ensure that no one loses their job due to the pandemic situation. And now people have started coming back and new recruitments have started coming back. Now, apart from the migrant issues, I would like to mention two more things. One is, as we are seeing the whole health sector in many countries has become quite challenging globally. And in some of the countries we have seen it's quite breaking down. And now coming the question of vaccination, I think that as we are talking about United Nations, I think that United Nations need to step up more and also coming up to see how the vaccination can become a global public good. This is extremely important. And because
we will listen this from the doctors because the doctors are there.
Right.
And if you
I'll finish in 30 seconds, but why I'm saying this, what you hear from the doctors is mainly the technical side of vaccination and everything. What I'm trying to say is the political will and the politically stepping up of the United Nations to make sure that vaccination becomes a global public good. That's the point I'm trying to make here. I'm not going for any technical question on, I know it's not my area. And here I think that WHO should try to see what measures it can take. That can be a recommendation for the UN and also for the WHO. And to conclude, I think that what United Nations and the members of the United Nations should look together. They should look together to see, to let the developing countries, in particular countries like Bangladesh that are aspiring to graduate from LDC, to see that how these countries can become more resilient to shock. And that can be done actually through looking into the SDG 2030, particularly goal 17, because when we talk about different areas of helping developing countries to become, better or doing better, we look into the aid and support and everything, but that brings into the debt cycle for all of us. So instead of that, I think it is better to see how we can make developing countries and the most vulnerable groups more resilient.
Ambassador Nahid, thank you very much. Now I like to invite, we have listened a lot about the COVID, education, UN peacekeeping, and the diplomatics role outside Bangladesh and anywhere for supporting the people there. Now we like to listen what economists says. We have amongst us the couple of economists from different parts of the world. Let us start with the economist from Bangladesh. He is the former governor of Bangladesh Bank, economist and the teacher of the University of Dhaka in economics department, Dr. Atiur Rahman. He is giving a brief presentation on the economic issues, and then after we'll go to the business people. We have a couple of business leaders around the globe, Dhaka, Cairo, UK, India, everywhere. So we'll listen at least a couple of words from them. First of all, we'll listen, Dr. Atiur, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the ministers, ambassadors, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. You have already heard, how Bangladesh has been doing quite well, in terms of economic recovery and responding to the COVID. What are the characteristics of this response? How could Bangladesh do so well, in this situation? Number one, Bangladesh was very proactive in policy innovation and speedy action. Secondly, Bangladesh was very open doing in policy coordination and continues to be so. Bangladesh has always been focused on policy clarity and communication with markets and the people in general under the leadership of very dynamic Prime Minister. Bangladesh was able to reallocate resources for health services, social protection, and incentivizing entrepreneurs not to go for shedding of their employees. Bangladesh was one of the pioneers of the inclusive and green growth strategies and focusing on a real economy like agriculture and small entrepreneurs. And Bangladesh kept on, keeping the supply chains, both local and regional, on despite the health hazard. And Bangladesh has been very keen on digital transformation, creating new opportunities for e-commerce and F-commerce for the emerging digital entrepreneurship. And Bangladesh always valued on collaboration, partnership with the non-governmental organization, private sector, and international development partners. And for that matter, Bangladesh did quite well, and I thought better than many of the peers. And it went out of the way in supporting agriculture, CSMEs, RMG sector, and digital entrepreneurs. As you heard from the Honorable Foreign Minister, that we invested, in fact, we created a stimulus package of 4.3% of the GDP. Bangladesh, actually, as a former governor, I can tell you, despite our resource constraint, the central bank came forward in terms of expanding its balance sheet and created the liquidity in the market. It eased many of its regulatory requirements and allowed money to flow into the market. And the remittance, which is about $2 billion a month. Now, today it has gone up to $21 billion, this year alone. And the reserve has gone up to $43 billion. And Bangladesh Bank came forward with its easing of the money and quantitative easing and plus refinancing and created the liquidity. For that matter, the business here really moved on despite the pandemic. In addition, the steady performance of our exports and the remittances have been a driving force behind our macroeconomic stability. Also, the prudential fiscal management has also been contributing towards macroeconomic stability. And of course, the leadership leadership matters. The prudent and the compassionate leadership of our Prime Minister, who is a champion of the earth and president of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, aspiring to have a cleaner, greener, and safer world, has been a great strength in building up the resilient Bangladesh. The leadership is not complacent and fortunately has been continuously pushing the boundary by providing needed policy support for easing the rules and regulations for both the entrepreneurs and the people. She truly believes in easing of the business and governance services is itself a better stimulus than just pouring in more money. For that matter, we must remain supportive of the changes that are already taking place. And in order to remain, I'll just finish with three things. I think this is true for Bangladesh and also true for the entire developing world or the countries who want to come out of this crisis. We are still not out of woods. So what we should do, we should continue to invest in people, in education, health, social protection, and in preventing the sharp increase in inequalities that this crisis has already produced. Second, support low carbon and climate resilient growth, including through smart allocations of the public spending or budget. Third, take advantage of the digital transformation through greater use of the e-government platforms to enhance efficiency and transparency while cutting red tape, e-learning, or remote working. Finally, we should really think about working together. As Shakil has already managed it, we should work together. One of our Nobel laureates, Rabindranath Tagore, said, if you eat alone, you only fill your stomach. But if 5 of you sit together and eat, you cultivate relationship. And I think we are here to cultivate relationship, and I think this has been a great platform. Let me end by a small quote from our Prime Minister, who has written recently in the Financial Times. She said, climate change, pandemics, and the destruction of nature are common threats. They should unite us in working towards a common solution, a cleaner, greener, and safer world. Let us all work together for that end. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Atiur Rahman, for your nice presentation. We have some more economists. We will listen their comments later on. I'd like to invite one business leader from Dhaka, Mr. Sejad Eke Khan, former President, Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Are you there, sir?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes,
Abul Qasim Khan. I must correct the name, Abul Qasim Khan. Thank you.
Can you hear me, Mr. Shakil? Can you hear me?
Yes, okay, fine.
Okay. Thank you. Respected Chair, Honorable Ministers, Honorable MPs, former Ministers of the Government of Bangladesh, Honorable guests, respected participants from home and abroad. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening around the world. I'm honored today to speak at this session. First of all, during this month of our victory of our motherland, with this deep respect, I recall the contribution of the father of the nation of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who has given us our freedom along with the freedom fighters of Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 outbreak has caused huge impact on economies and the societies across the globe. As we all know that the economic fallout from COVID-19 poses multi-dimensional challenges for all the countries of the world. UNTAD report published recently says that the pandemic has redefined the world economy in many ways that will deepen inequality and can only be reversed if global transformation in attitudes towards trade and development allow the whole world to recover together. Therefore, they must be focused on economic recovery, especially one is protecting jobs, two is sustaining micro, small, medium-sized enterprises, and three, creating safety nets for the most vulnerable people in the world, especially in the LDCs and developing countries. Ladies and gentlemen, from the LDC to the developed world, today everyone is faced with this enormous challenge of the COVID in many ways. COVID-19 serves as a reminder that we live in a globally connected, closely interdependent global village that brings opportunities but also challenges. COVID-19 makes us to think carefully that the world can come to a stop if things go horribly wrong, and if we are not controlled within a limited area, within a limited timeline, it will become a global threat. This has shaped up to be a very difficult year for the global economy in a century, triggered by ongoing economic crisis, further deepening with the second wave taking more dangerous shape. Estimates of global recession matching the Great Depression of the 1930s is probably closer. Ladies and gentlemen, as we hope for a better tomorrow, the possibility of returning to a pre-COVID world with the arrival of the vaccine. But I think the new normal is to stay for a long time, as the aftermath of the virus to the global economy will have everlasting effect and has changed the economic landscape of the world forever. Unfortunately or fortunately, a new world is being created today. Unemployment will be the biggest threat as more and more companies will be facing the threat of bankruptcy. Supply chain will be fragile. Confidence will be low and demand will be slow and weak. Debt levels across the world is rising. It is projected to be at all-time high levels. And the multilateral trading system was already under stress before the crisis. We hope the new president of the United States will reverse the policy of the US as the COVID-19 highlights the need for some quick remedies and bold actions that match the ambition shown when the global system was founded. The leading economic powers have always shown leadership in times of chaos and uncertainty. Ladies and gentlemen, as LDCs need special development support more than ever, UNTAD expressed that the mix of productive policies must be at the core of this approach. Therefore, the following are the very important areas to be addressed. One, designing policies to achieve fairer and greener recovery through trade and investment. UNTAD calls for intensifying South-South cooperation, especially through regional agreement, opening markets for global expansion of trade. Two, reducing supply divide and accelerate shorter, more regional value chains are key policy stepping stones for a better post-COVID recovery process, giving developing countries the opportunity of such value addition. Three, put focus on ICT services which can increase efficiency and reduce cost, promote the digital transformation from farming to manufacturing, help and assist the developing countries for affordable technology. Four, in addition, funding research and sciences across the developing world, invest in innovation through climate-friendly production and consumption by leading companies across the LDC to the developing world. Five, revisit policy with added focus and coordination to steer the world economy back towards the SDG goal agreed by all the UN member states in 2015 and aim to reduce poverty, protect the planet, and promote peace and prosperity by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a global recovery plan like the new Marshall Plan, but better, wider, and more effective for having sustainable future, engaging the SDG goals, giving more to the needy so that no one is left behind. Building a better world is a matter of conviction and collective action. The lives of future generations of this planet itself will depend on the decisions we all take in the coming months to build a more inclusive and sustainable future. Thank you for giving me a patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abul Qasim Khan, for your presentation. We have amongst us just joined the gentleman doing research on COVID-19 in Bangladesh, Dr. Tarek Aram, already well discussed about the issues. And I'd like to invite you for a minute. Can you give some comments on the COVID situation latest? Dr. Tarek Alam, please.
Can you hear me? Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, please. Carry on for 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you very much. A very good morning and very good, actually, evening from Bangladesh. The Honorable Foreign Minister, all the ministers.
No need to address, sir. Just go through the subject.
Okay, thank you. Since the commencement of the conference in September, major progressions have been made by doctors, researchers, politicians, and economists across the world in combating the virus. Earlier this year, we walked into the pandemic blindfolded and unarmed against a novel virus. Today, after months of experience, research, and scientific advancement, we have weapons that are deemed to be strong enough to tackle the virus. We had a study in Bangladesh Medical College, which showed, and it's an observational study, which showed the efficacy of ivermectin and doxycycline. And then we did another study which showed the prophylactic effect of ivermectin and doxycycline, which was published in the European Journal of Medical and Health Science on 15 December. Shortly afterwards, there was a meta-analysis conducted by Dr. Pierre Cody, who was the president of the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, and which emphasized on the preventive effect of ivermectin by compiling data from research conducted across the world in Argentina, France, India, Egypt, and Bangladesh. A study called the COVID-19, the ivermectin African Enigma, was recently published in Columbia Medica by Guerrero that compared the SARS-CoV infection and death rates in African countries that participated in an intensive ivermectin mask campaign carried out to control onchocerciasis with countries that did not participate. This study results showed countries that participated in WHO-sponsored ivermectin campaign had statistically significant 28% lower mortality and 8% lower rate of infection due to COVID-19. This proved that a mass public health preventive campaign against COVID-19 may have taken place inadvertently in some African countries with massive community ivermectin distribution that led to lower cases and infectivity. And recently, and on the other hand, cases in Bangladesh have been showing a downward trend in the past few months, along with declining death tolls. Most cases of COVID-19 are being detected early, with majority of patients recovering without hospitalization or critical care. According to a leaked interagency UN memo dated March 26, it was predicted that based on the extraordinary human densities in Bangladesh, ranking number 8 in the list of countries by population and comprising 2% of the interworld population, the impact of COVID-19 without intervention can result in up to 2 million deaths during the epidemic wave. Despite the odds, as of today, only about 7,400 deaths have been reported in Bangladesh. With ivermectin being taken in nearly every household across the country, the drug is undoubtedly a major contributor to the low death rate, early recovery, and declining numbers of affected cases reported in Bangladesh. A third world country with a GDP per capita of income of $5,000, which is 1/10 that of USA and 1/8 of the UK, Bangladesh has resorted a cheaper, widely available drug that has proven to be a lifesaver amidst this testing time. The country has been running normally ever since the lockdown was removed from June this year. Major businesses and offices are functioning with full workforce. Educational institutions are operating remotely with technological support while ensuring safety of both students and educators. In the past few months, signs of economic recovery have been evident in Bangladesh, although not so uniform in all sectors. Amidst all uncertainties, a widely available, safe, and cheap FDA-approved drug that can decrease severity, mortality, and has preventive capacity, namely ivermectin, should certainly be at the forefront of the battle. Nevertheless, with billions of dollars invested in vaccines by the powerheads of the world, the bar is high for any drug that even hints at the cure of COVID-19. Lastly, being a doctor, I have pledged to put humanity first, and therefore I would request the same from all nations. The crisis is still out there. It is time to put politics and money aside and to strategize unbiased plans to fight the virus. It's never too late to join force, to break borders, and work in harmony to save humanity, because together we are stronger. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Alam. May I invite the gentleman joined from Georgia, the Mission Chief of International Organization of Migration, Mr. Georgi Gigauri. Mr. Georgi Gigauri, are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please carry on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation and such an interesting discussion. Thank you. Thanks very much indeed. I am the Chief of Mission of the UN Migration Agency. I'm in Bangladesh, but now I'm on holiday, so I'm tuning in from Southeastern Europe. So greetings to colleagues, and thanks again for inviting me. I would like to touch a little on the human mobility aspect of this crisis, how COVID has affected us. This year has been unprecedented. So for us, as the migration agency that deals with people on the move, you can imagine the thinking inside our organization. What do we do as someone mandated to assist people on the move in a crisis where the world has come to a standstill, especially working in Bangladesh, where migration and migrants are such important agents, not just of economic development, but also social development and social change. So we in Bangladesh are working in three directions. One is, of course, with the Rohingya population in the camps and working on the COVID and public health response there. We're also working on points of entry together with the World Health Programme to assist in improving the border crossing points and make sure that screening and proper procedures and border management is improved to ensure that the virus is contained and counteracted. And finally, of course, with the millions of labor migrants, many of whom are returning and are in need of urgent reintegration assistance and then hopefully remigration to regain their gainful employment and continue their work. I would also like to mention the Global Compact for Migration, Bangladesh being one of the intellectual mothers or fathers of this document, that really does bring together the interests of the global North and the global South when it comes to human mobility. And it has really come into sharp focus, specifically the migration health nexus and the importance of coming together, not just as societies, but as different governments to make sure that we tackle this crisis, which has affected everyone. The crisis itself isn't new. However, the scope and the size of it is, given the globalization process is ongoing. As the Secretary General said, and as my boss, Mia, the resident coordinator, said, no one is safe until everyone is safe. I also want to reiterate our commitment as the United Nations Migration Network, for which I'm the coordinator in Bangladesh, to continue assisting the government and, of course, the people as we continue to fight against this virus. And finally, I'd like to remind and reiterate again that although we speak of a human mobility crisis, we speak of a public health crisis, we speak of an economic crisis, but ultimately behind all the figures, it's a personal crisis. This is about people, this is about migrants, this is about families, this is about communities. So thank you very much again for inviting me, and I look forward to continuing this interesting discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gigori, for your kind present and giving some words, as because you are very effective for us of repatriating our non-resident Bangladeshis living different countries in crisis situation. And I'm sorry I bothered you in your holidays. Anyway, wish you good luck and happy holiday. Now I like to invite the organization is giving the tremendous support is New York venue, providing this venue, all these logistics, all the equipments, officials are very cordial. They're supporting us. This community help and this NYPD support, all is goes to this, the whole department and the officials. Everyone is supporting us anyway for last 3 days. Now I like to invite the commanding officer, the Deputy Inspector Victoria Perry. Please say a few words.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Chairman, all the members on the dais, along with all the distinguished guests around the world. Sitting here the past 2 hours and listening to all the different suggestions and your input in regards to the pandemic that we're dealing with as a whole, I hear nothing but great things and I appreciate it. Opening up our place to you all is, we couldn't think of nothing else better to do, and especially in a time like now. The NYPD has lost 46 members of service due to COVID. So we're dealing with it as a whole, as a organization as well. And 46 is far too many for anybody. And this is something that we don't want to see continuing, especially going into the new year. I will say, leave you all with saying, teamwork alone, we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So I thank you all for everything that you're doing, all your input, the hard work, the doctors doing everything, and everyone across the country, across the world, should I say, and helping with this crisis. If there's anything we can do for you any further, we're here, and we will always be a lending hand to you all. And I thank you, and I hope you all have a happy new year.
Thank you very much, Perry, because we are really grateful. Center for NRB is really grateful to you because from the starting of this program, 3 months before, you are supporting us anyway. And your department, your officials, they're giving tremendous support. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again, and they will continue again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have wide variety of people here, and I will request all of you to put your speeches like the very in 1 minute so that we can listen diverse people. In UK people, business people are waiting there in Turkey, and this in Egypt, the press people, and another frontline peoples are the press people, the journalists. We have amongst us the president of the Kolkata Press Club India, Mr. Snehashish Sur. May I invite you, sir, for a minute's comments, please? Mr. Snehashish Sur, President, Kolkata Press Club India. Are you there, sir? Mr. Snehashish Sur, are you there? Okay, maybe we'll listen him later on. We have bankers, insurance people, and these business people. Now listen one business people from UK, Mr. Shahagir Box Farooq. Can you give some comments on it, Farooq Bhai, for 1 minute, please?
Thank you, Mr. Shakil Chodry. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all of you from London. I can give you just my personal observation from various speakers who have spoken. I know the time is very restricted, but I can tell you that this pandemic has given the impact not only to the lives and livelihood of the people of the whole planet, but it has also given us some lessons to be learned. And one thing I have learned personally is that in this small planet, nobody is powerful, nobody is powerless. Every country is same. They could not do anything for themselves, be he the president or a prime minister. So we have to act all together so that we can combat this sort of pandemic coming up again after maybe 100 years. That is why the collective cooperation and coordination are so important that every speaker has said it. But what I noticed that there was a competition between few nations how to make the vaccine so quickly to save their own nationals in their own country. So I think because the United Nations is present here, I think there should be an attempt by the United Nations to make sure that because it is a global problem, every country should get their vaccine at the same time. Not only I don't want to be safe when my relatives in Bangladesh will be unsafe. That's not very fair. I don't feel good when my business community in Bangladesh do not get their payment when they get their order from the Western countries. And just because of the pandemic, they even do not take the goods. They do not accept it. And they don't pay they make the payments. This is something which World Trade Organization from the United Nations can address. These are some of the things I'm telling you. Because of the time restraint, I only say that I wish there is a good year coming in 2021. So let's all be safe there. Thank you, Shakil Bhai. You are doing excellent job. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shahagir Box Farooq, the investment expert in UK for the non-resident Bangladeshis, particularly the British Bangladeshis. And also the president is there, Mr. Bashir Ahmed. Mr. President, can you just comment for 1 minute? Mr. Bashir Ahmed.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much, honorable panel speakers, ladies and gentlemen, and warm greeting from London. The United Kingdom currently facing a bleak 2020, with the threat of a third COVID wave, rising business insolvencies, higher structural unemployment, and massive financial hardship. Yes. But COVID also has brought some number of economic and opportunity, growth of the digital economy in the areas such as e-commerce, remote working, fintech, and many others. Those shifts are not temporary, and the seeds for a long-term economic recovery and new opportunities for the businesses and individuals to embrace this digital transformation. pandemic is a reality check for a business that had been reluctant to embrace this digital transformation and now find themselves awfully unrepresented. Policymakers should support businesses adopting new digital platform and come up with a support scheme to create an explosion of new digital entrepreneurs. Let's look beyond elastoplast economics and leverage technology to embrace from the pandemic with sustainable digital economic growth for United Kingdom and for the world. We express our gratitude to Center for NRB for this opportunity and organizing this wonderful virtual conference. And thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President from the British Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We have amongst us the President of Sylhet Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Are you there, sir? Mr. Abu Tahir Shuaib. Abu Tahir Shuaib, President Sylhet Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Okay, I'll listen him later. Now we want to listen for another frontliner, the press people. I have seen the Turkey World Television. Shamim Chodry is there. Shamim, are you there? Can you speak for a minute or for your community?
Yes.
From Turkey, Istanbul. Shamim
Yes.
Chodry, 1 minute, Shamim, please.
Hello, hi there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll keep it very brief. I am indeed calling from Istanbul. I am a foreign correspondent for the state broadcaster, the TRT World. It's the public broadcaster. Our job fundamentally is not going to change in light of the pandemic. We will be doing what we always do. Our fundamental job is to look for accountability, to look for transparency. We've been hearing about how the migrants, people and community are at the heart of this pandemic, both in the short term and in the long term. We will be looking towards governments, businesses, institutions, public enterprises to see how individuals will be affected, not just in the short term and in the long term. Just something that I picked up on earlier on, Dr. Zaki Rezwana Anwar, she said, and I think this is a very crucial point that not much has been made of during this otherwise very fruitful and fascinating conference, and that is that we can expect future pandemics as a result of increased globalization, increased movement of peoples across the world. We can at some point see a pandemic which may well reach the crisis level that the coronavirus pandemic has. I would like to know, and clearly I don't expect answers right at this moment, but part of my job will be to know what measures Bangladesh, as well as other countries, will be putting in place to ensure that any future pandemic is contained, what measures it will put in. We know that the coronavirus pandemic had been predicted by experts for many, many years. By and large, those warnings had gone unheeded, and we have ended up with the crisis that we're in now. So that is one of the things that I would be interested in terms of the of Bangladesh's economy, and indeed the economy of all the countries around the world. We know that even though Bangladesh may be back on its feet, if consumer countries are not purchasing Bangladeshi goods, this is going to cause a problem. Is there a safety net for the workers? Is there a safety net for garments workers? Is there a safety net for daily wage workers? We know that the government has been providing food in the short term. Can we expect to see that in the long term? We know that the repercussions of the pandemic is going to last years. This is just a taster of some of the things that we will be looking at. The list is endless, but really we will continue to do our jobs as we have been doing to the best of our abilities.
Thank you. Thank you, Shamim. You are doing very wonderful job. Your community is doing tremendous support to the government and organizations to know the things, actually what going on on COVID. May I invite now a former minister, Mr. Abul Hassan Chodry. He was the former state minister for foreign affairs in Bangladesh. Abul Hassan Chodry, for a quick remarks, how best we can fight this COVID, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. May I first of all thank NRB Center for inviting me in the company of a galaxy of intellectuals, learned people, scholars, respected and honorable ministers, leaders from industry, leaders from the social sciences and the medical profession. my first words must, of course, naturally be to look back at 71 and think of the greatest Bengali of all times, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, whose appeal and whose vision united us like never before. And even the most delusional, even the most optimistic dreamer could not imagine where Bangladesh is today. And I must say this, that Alhamdulillah, under the leadership of his daughter, our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, we have broken the barriers of poverty. We have scaled up beyond all expectations, not just in the South Asian region, but in the whole world. We have taken note of. Now, your NRB Center has very aptly titled the necessity, the togetherness business. I submit that the need for togetherness is neither a necessity nor a need for all of us. It is a reality, painfully, calamitously, and severely forced on our attention. How the world behaves and how we go together from it will indicate how we have learned the lessons. As far as Bangladesh is concerned, it is defined by resilience, by resurrection, by restoration. When the world, and with great respect, I have heard with great respect to the rest rep of the UN, and as a citizen of Bangladesh, as a mere mortal, I thank for the UN's acknowledgement of the unprecedented move of our Honorable Prime Minister. And I would expect that as we refocus post-COVID, the UN would be seen to be more proactive, because the world, when it only preached and yet built walls and barriers, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina opened its gates to the people who were fleeing for persecution. She was in that way, in a very meaningful sense, saluting the heroes of 71, the gallant martyrs, the 3 million lives that had to be sacrificed, 250,000 of our women folk who had to face severe depredation. And today's Bangladesh was simply unimaginable. As we so well know, not just in Millennium Development Goals, but we are well on the way to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. All this has become possible because of the unity of our people, and COVID has again forcibly made us realize that we no longer live in isolation. Countries, no matter how powerful they are, of the past or of the present, if they feel that they can claw back into the days of isolationism, they're living in a dream world. And again, as a citizen of Bangladesh, Mr. Chairman, listening to the NYPD, let me as a Bengali thank them for the great role they have played in America. Thank people all over the world. I will not take much time because there are many very, very learned scholars. We have listened to the former governor, for whom I have very great respect, Dr. Atiyah Rahman, that the development that Bangladesh has done, let me just, we know it. When even the greatest economy today has grown at 1%, we are nearly there at 6%. So we need not rest on the laurels. There is absolutely no opportunity for complacence. When Bangladesh became independent, we were 75 million. Land has not increased. We were a deficit nation. And today we export in a nation of 160 million. As I speak to you, every day we are making new innovations. Waterlogging is a tremendous problem in Dhaka. And under the dynamic leadership of our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, only hours from now, the Mayor Barrister Taposh and Mayor Atikul Islam, under the auspices of WASA, which is, by the way, led by a very dynamic CEO, Mr. Taksim Khan, I congratulate him, is going to address very meaningfully the challenge that Dhaka faces due to waterlogging. The reason why I mentioned Dhaka is that many young and some very beloved entrepreneurs of mine would, I'm sure, readily agree that this is the centerpiece. As we appeal for investments, if we cannot present a picture of a city which is manageable, which is livable, this becomes a very, very challenging task. So I think that, in a whole variety of areas, the planning and the way that we have practiced it has been very meaningful. But what I would like to suggest is that today, as we refocus on a post-COVID situation, and there again, the whole plethora of reasons can be cited, where despite the many sort of oppressive statistics that were flouted, we have, by the grace of Allah, up to now, remained a country which has been able to tackle, or which has been able to confront the very hardships that COVID had imposed on us. Because for us, it is both life and livelihood. I would suggest that unfortunately the world hasn't yet woken up to the realities. We heard the honorable, both the DGSSF and the DG Ops and Maintenance. Bangladesh stands #1 in leading the fight for global peace. We are, and our armed forces all over the world. I had the happiness and the honor of being with the Honorable Prime Minister sometime in late 90s, when the Secretary General of the United Nations said that the way that the Bangladesh armed forces have performed in other countries of the world is absolutely not exemplary, is simply unique. There has been no example of that. Now, in the various fields that we have gone ahead is because of our passion to excel. And I'm sure that this will also unite us in tackling the post-COVID situation, and our entrepreneurs have shown vision. Most of all, our agrarian workers has done an absolute revolution. And here I would invite that those who very sincerely think of us, Bangladesh is a role model. It should be encouraged, and our efforts that in the midst of all these hardships, being a host to the millions from across the border, and the conditions I need hardly dilate upon, should be well recognized. And as I thank the world, as I thank the NRB Center, I do so in the confident hope and expectation that the blood which we have driven will go deeper, bringing the fruition of unity and fraternity amongst nations. Once again, I am absolutely humbled for being allowed this opportunity to be a participant in this very meaningful and substantial discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Before I invite the other minister, honorable minister, I like to recognize before you Dhaka Venu, our board members, seriously working there to materialize these things, and they are providing the technical supports to the New York base from Dhaka. I like to mention Mr. Ishtiaq Ahmed Chodry. He is wonderfully leading this Dhaka Venu for this conference. Mr. ABM Mustaq for 3 days, last 3 days, he is working to make it materialize in Dhaka. Mr. Mahabub Anam, the board member of the Center for NRB, also in Dhaka base, is working. Our team member Aisha Anwara Bithi, Dilip Kumar, the technical assistant in our Dhaka office, is giving us tremendous support. May I invite one very senior former minister is there. He's deadly night in Dhaka, I believe. So I will request him to make a little comment before he leave for 1 minute. Dr. A. Moin Khan, please. Dr. A. Moin Khan, are you there, sir, please?
Yes, I am the man.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for very kindly inviting me to this August gathering. For a moderate income country like Bangladesh, the corona crisis is really the challenge of life versus livelihood. And no doubt, this is also a hard reality, even for the richest countries of the world. So to say, the United States,
Good, how are you? Great.
which is
day would you like?
facing
18th, Monday, January 18th.
economic challenge for their people since the great crash of 1928. While speaking on the post-pandemic economy, rather than going into the details in this very short span of time, I'd like to draw your kind attention to a holistic policy paradigm of this so-called new normal for the global economy in a long-run model, not necessarily in short terms, in order that we can live behind a sustainable and livable planet for our future generations. That must be our ultimate goal. What it really means is that the future world needs to be guided in a direction where people must be provided with the basic needs to attain welfare for them in health, education, housing, and their basic livelihood, as far as food and clothing, rather than leading them towards a lifestyle of luxury and extravagance, and to reshape the service and production systems in this world to be geared towards that specific direction. Thanks to the criticality that we are no longer isolated societies of the past, rather all members of a global village, as we said. This scenario has been achieved through modern day connectivity right now through this meeting. And the mobility and the challenge now is how we can sustain this by ensuring the security of the people and providing them the confidence of their basic right to live, particularly in the poorer countries of the world. These are issues which may turn out to be important in a post-pandemic economy and may be indicative of the approach I'm referring to. Bearing in mind the havoc caused by the ongoing COVID-19 across the globe, the second wave is still going on. And not forgetting the impact of climate change on our future growth process. The simple prescription for a new economic order could be towards settling for a new equilibrium of lower levels in both consumption and production for the rich countries of the world. This is what I call the holistic, long-run global model. I believe the most crucial role in regard to this unifying element in a post-COVID realistic future can best be played by the UN itself. I emphasize in our path ahead, we need to carry along all peoples around the whole world, not just the rich and the fortunate, but also the poor and the underprivileged. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Moin Khan, for your nice words. And friends, ladies and gentlemen, we are running a little short of times. I will take a couple of geniuses' speech requesting with 1 minute's limitation, because you know the limitation here is also because of the authorities have some time limitations of the pandemic situation. So the NYPD is giving the tremendous support. Still then the authority and the mayoral's office has some directions for us for the health issues. May I invite Honorable former Education Minister Sheikh Shahidul Islam to give your quick remarks, please, Shahid Bhai. Please unmute.
Thank you very much for inviting me in this August gathering. It's very difficult to say things in a small span of time, but still. One thing I want to mention, that education is the most disastrous sector in Bangladesh now. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, all educational institutions are closed, while in the West, I have seen the schools and other things are open, and they are having classes in the online basis. So we urge our education system to the government to revive the education system, resurrect it. Otherwise, we will be falling behind. Another thing which I want to mention is that in our country, there are long holidays. In the next academic session, we should avoid these long holidays and also make the weekly holidays 2 days, 1 day instead of 2 days. And we should restructure the curriculum. Otherwise, we'll be falling behind and our students will be losing a year. I don't want to take a lot of time on thing, just the final words, that it is to fight this type of pandemic. The resilience of Bangladeshi people is tremendous. In crisis, Bangladesh always behaves well, Bangladeshis will behave well. So we'll be expecting that we will overcome it. And we require the global support to do it because of vaccination program and other things. If we get the vaccination, vaccines, our this EPI program, if we follow that, we can combat the pandemic easily. Jai Bangla, Jai Bangabandhu.
Thank you very much. Shohid Bhai, thank you very much for giving all the time with us. I like to mention a couple of names because these gentlemen are very serious about these activities of the NRB Center in Bangladesh. They are promoting everywhere. I like to mention Miss Daisy Yasmin from USA, Mr. Muhibur Rahman Muhib from UK, Miss Brishti Khatun Sabah from Malaysia, Syed Engineer Syed Mohiuddin Iqbal from Qatar, and Mr. Mahbub Rahman Chodry from Qatar, Engineer Mohiuddin Iqbal from Dubai, UN News Online, Dr. Ziauddin Ahmed from Philadelphia, Mr. Monir Choudhury from Chicago, and Mr. Freedom Fighter Mukit Choudhury from New York, Mr. Amin Rasul, Secretary Bangladesh Community from Qatar, Mr. Sadek Rikpon from Kuwait, Mr. Sarwar Alam, journalist from Anadolu Agency from Ankara, Barrister Foyez Sheikh Akhtar, Mahbub Alam Shah from Malaysia, Mr. Majidul Islam, economist of United Nations organizations, Mr. Saidul Haq, Anwar Hussain Khan, and I like to listen about, in 2 minutes we will finish our program, but I like to listen one banker. He's a renowned banker in Bangladesh. Can he say something about the banking problem in a minute, please? Mr. Helal Ahmad Choudhury, a former managing director of a bank in Bangladesh, and also the teacher in the banking institute. Are you there, sir? Mr. Helal Ahmad Choudhury. Mr. Helal Ahmad Choudhury, are you there, sir? Can you unmute and speak? Mr. Helal Ahmad Choudhury, I think he left. And we have another economist from Qatar, Mr. Professor Dr. Anwarul Hassan. Sir, in 1 minute, you please just give some remarks on what we are discussing about. Professor Dr. Anwarul Hassan. Sir, can you for 1 minute, please? Unmute, please. 1 minute, please. We are very less of time.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Honorable ministers, scholars, intellectuals, policymakers, United Nations staffs, dignitaries, guests, attendees, ladies and gentlemen, it's a tremendous pleasure, honor, and privilege for me to be here and to speak in front of this auspicious gathering. At the closing session of the 75th UNGA Sideline Conference. First of all, I'd like to thank and congratulate the Center for NRB and its amazingly talented, industrious, capable, and visionary chairman, Brother Mr. Shakil Chodry, for his visionary leadership in organizing this great event, as well as a series of similar events around the globe. As we know today, this year, the General Assembly of the United Nations is celebrating the 75th anniversary. This 75th anniversary of the UNGA is an opportunity for us to remind ourselves to hold true to the principle of the United Nations of advancing peace and security, human rights, and sustainable development. Now, today's theme is post-pandemic world economy, necessity of togetherness under the umbrella of United Nations. This theme reminds me that we are going through an unprecedented historical time of a global pandemic that has been changing the world and the world views of its more than 7.8 billion inhabitants. Now, firstly, as of today, more than 82.1 million of people have been infected by this virus, and out of that, 1.79 million death has resulted. But let me remind you a very positive news that 46.5 million of those who got infected, they actually recovered completely, which tells us that 98%, more than 98% of people recovered back, which has been possible because of a united effort, togetherness, unity, and collective efforts of inclusiveness from all over the world. Secondly, this pandemic has shown no distinction, selectivity, biasness, or preference toward any human class, which reminds us of a great lesson that when it comes to the human rights, justice, and development, the underprivileged population of the world, including the poverty-stricken third world nations, the unfortunate displaced refugee populations of Rohingya, Syria, Yemen, and elsewhere equally deserve world-class education. The Digital Bangladesh initiative of our government and the emergence of the online educational platforms globally has opened up an unprecedented opportunity for us, for the world-class free online education from elementary level to the university level and beyond the postgraduate level for these refugee people, for these underprivileged people all around the world. So I invite the United Nations General Assembly and the UNESCO to come up with innovative, breakthrough, courageous programs to bring online university level educations, the benefit of the science and technology, the e-commerce, and the global development to the refugee population in Rohingya people and elsewhere in the world, so that they can be turned into assets and not seen as burden for their host countries. And thirdly, in a post-pandemic world, I believe there should be nothing about them versus us in this modern world. Everything should be about togetherness, about unity, about a united human front, about a universal human fraternity, not about East versus West, or rich versus poor, or black versus brown or white. Our politicians, our visionary politicians and responsible leaders of this modern world have huge responsibilities on their shoulders to promote inclusiveness in politics and societies, home and abroad. And fourthly, last but not the least, what is on this aspect, I strongly invite our policymakers to think of innovative programs and strategies to invest in the development of skills of also the NRB people, the non-resident Bangladeshi communities all over the world, in Middle East and everywhere around the world, the people who are the sources for the billions of dollars of remittance from all over the world for our country, that is keeping our economy, the cycle of our economy running all the time. So I strongly believe that the United Nations can also play a huge role in coming up with the strategies and programs that can help us in developing the skills of these under-skilled workers, which can turn them and help them in becoming compatible and competent workers, useful skilled workforce for the modern e-commerce revolution, biomedical engineering, and healthcare engineering, and all areas of the inevitable fourth industrial revolution. With that, I would conclude my brief speech. Finally, I thank immensely to everyone, particularly to NRB, Center for NRB, and its visionary leader, chairman, brother, Mr. Shakil Chodry. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Anwarul Hassan. Thank you very much once again, because you have spent some of time of your holidays with us, because I know you are traveling to Canada, not from Doha. So anyway, thank you. We are grateful to your family for allowing you to join us here in this time. Before I conclude, I like to mention a couple of names who already supported us many ways. Mr. Taskirul Islam from USA, Mr. Manirul Zaman from Italy, Mr. Ansar Ahmedullah from UK, Mr. Abdul Razak from USA, Mr. Shohid Jahangir from Dhaka, Honorable Defense Advisor of the United Nations Permanent Mission in New York, ATN News, Boishaki Television, Manav Zamin, Saidur Rahman, and Mr. Nur Rahman, CEO of Halal Food in Brunei. Everybody has extended a tremendous support, and I first mentioned you to the NYPD. The tremendous support is given by this organization and the United Nations office in Dhaka, who have extended a very good support. Without their support, it's very difficult us to cope up with the United Nations activities here. And with this, I like to conclude the session here, thanking all of you, Mr. Moinul Chodry Helal, Mr. A. Rohim, Mr. Wasif Chodry, Mr. Tausif Raja, police officials and Dhaka office people, those who, our board members, particularly the Ishtiaq Chodry, Mr. Shuaib Ahmad Chodry, Mr. Mahabub Anam, Mr. A.K.M. Mustaq, Brishti Khatun Sabah, everybody has extended tremendous support to us, and we keep this Victoria Perry, already I mentioned her name, Samina Alam and Mr. Irshad of NYPD. For last 3 days, they are giving us technical support in this conference hall. And my hats off to you them, because without any hesitation, they are giving us everything, starting from the paper cloths to the, the sanitation, everything. So with these words, honorable ministers, honorable economists, the business leaders, everybody, the journalists, press people, the Ansar by Ansar Ahmadullah, always I invite him for supporting the NRB activities. Mr. Mohibur Rahman Mohib from UK, he is also the president of the Jalalabad Association in United Kingdom. Everybody is supporting us like anything. I hope I left nothing to mention. If I mention anything and I miss anything, Mr. Kwak, these NYPD is still waiting with us for closing this hall. So thank you very much, sir, giving us extra support. Mr. Irshad, my hats off to you for giving all the support. All the ministers, former ministers, irrespective of different political affiliations, you have extended tremendous support to the Center for NRB. And this is the strength for NRB Center, and we will keep it up, and we will try to promote Bangladesh everywhere worldwide, because Bangladesh is our country. Whatever the party we do, whatever the philosophy we belongs, but the country is ours. So Bangladesh is there, NIPD, the Bangladeshi police officials are there, they are supporting us. With these words, thank you very much. God bless you. Allah Hafiz. See you next time.